Like, how do you not?
I just don't have time. If I have any free time, it's for video games. So it's like, you know, if you have an hour of free time or whatever in the day, I gotta figure out which one I can do, and I usually prefer video games, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. But, like, even at the store, do you put something on the TV sometimes? And
just, like, games. Because, I mean, you know, there's a big TV there, and we just want to, like, show off whatever, whatever games are sitting there. So, no, I mean, I still listen to music, I guess, because that I can do while working or doing other things. But other than that...
Are you on the Spotify?
I do have a Spotify, yeah.
Like the paid membership one?
I can't remember if I am anymore. I was paying for it for a while. I don't think I am right now.
You get terrible commercials? Because then that means you haven't paid for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of putting the two together of video games get patches and updates, but the new Drake album, which I'm really into, called Scorpion, they got an update, like a patch to the album.
Whoa, weird.
Because they can do that now. Isn't that weird?
What did they patch?
They like change like levels and stuff. And,
okay.
And I think a couple things with lyrics maybe, like unbleeped something or.
Wow,
Isn't that weird?
That's really weird. I don't know why I think that's so weird, but.
It's weird.
Yeah, well, because I mean, when video games get patches, it's typically just to fix something that went wrong, as opposed to making a creative change.
Oh yeah, totally.
So if they changed anything like lyrically or, you know, anything that could be considered a creative decision, that's weird. Because that doesn't really happen with patches for video games.
Well, you know where it does happen, and I've actually done it in writing online. Like you do a blog post or an actual article.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and you're like, you edit it a bit, and people don't know the difference. Because they're just, well, also people don't read.
Yeah.
We got to change that. This is the podcast. I'm Carlos, and there's a lot of things where we talk about media, entertainment, video games, streaming stuff, music, as we were just talking about. And I'm Carlos, and I have with us today Kelsey Lewin.
Hi.
Hey. You're of Pink Gorilla fame.
Of Pink Gorilla fame.
That's what I'm going to say.
That doesn't mean anything to, like, so many people. That just sounds like nonsense.
What is Pink Gorilla, for the people who don't know?
Pink Gorilla is the video game store that I own half of, so... We are 2 locations in Seattle, Washington, sell retro games, import games, cool stuff, you know, trading cards, all those kinds of things.
It is one of the coolest stores in the Northwest.
I see that you have a sticker on your laptop.
Oh, do I?
You do.
I forgot. Oh, I do, yeah. It is a rad store, and I was going to it forever before you owned it, and I really dug it, and I like it even more now. And I love what you guys have done with it and brought it out to shows. You're always there, and you're like super hard worker. It's like ridiculous.
I try.
Well, you do. You try and succeed. And you also do YouTube stuff and a podcast called Game Blitz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do a lot of things.
Oh, you're a perfect guest.
Get
that? Yeah. Yeah, I dig your videos, and you don't do too many videos right now.
No, they're, you know, the style of videos I've been doing, they're basically mini documentaries. And I mean, like, really mini. Like, they're definitely on very specific, very short subject matter. But the amount of time that goes into making them the way I want to make them, because I'm definitely a perfectionist, I mean, it's easily 100 hours per video I put out, which is crazy. It shouldn't be that way, but the research that I do, it's not that I'm reading continuously for 50 hours or whatever. It's that I have to read oftentimes the same thing over and over and over again to see if, you know, this article that was clearly sourced from the same press release, is this article added anything? You know, I'm basically spending a ton of that time just searching to see if there's one more thing that's really difficult to find information on the internet. Because my goal with those videos is that I've done there's nothing more to learn.
Yeah.
I have done all of it.
Yeah.
I've done the hours and hours of exhaustive research at libraries using, you know, paid databases.
Yeah, wow.
All of that, you know, I mean.
Yeah.
So there's nothing more you could do. And that's not to say that there's literally nothing else to learn. New information could totally surface later.
But it's not likely.
Yeah,
Not
I mean,
with
someone
them.
could find a press release or something that was previously not available anywhere. So I'm not saying that it is literally everything you need to know, but it is currently, as we know it, for all of the information out there. That's it.
No, it feels that way. And I edit videos as well. And so when I watch her stuff, I'm like, oh, yeah, she did her research. She's got every part of everything about this topic, and it's in there.
Yeah, it's not like monetarily lucrative at all. I mean, it's definitely...
For the amount of hours you do.
Yeah, no, it never will be.
Yeah.
Like, I would have to get a stupid amount of views, like more views than there really are people who would ever be interested in something like that for me to ever make any money on it. So I'm not doing it for money or anything like that. I really enjoy the research process, and I enjoy the sort of converting it into a complete mini lesson process.
It's like a book almost in a way.
And then the video editing is the part I hate, but that takes me forever.
I really, really enjoy it, and I like the idea of... I think you're doing it because it's a passion, right? That's why you're doing it. It's not for that monetary part of it. And like you said, you're a perfectionist. You want to get like the full story, this is actually what happened, and this is the product, and this is all of its releases, et cetera, et cetera.
I've had multiple videos where I have reshot them because one more tiny piece of information was found. I almost had to do that with this one I'm working on right now, but luckily I was able to just record a voice over just kind of like put it in B-roll. There. Yeah.
What's that one for? Can you tell us?
Yeah, it's the Game Boy sewing machine.
Oh, you mentioned sewing machine in your last podcast.
Yeah, and it should be out relatively soon because I did like 9.5 hours of video editing yesterday, and I'm just really bad at it. Like there's no way it should be taking this long. I'm sure a better person than me could have it done already.
We should talk after.
Yeah.
I know the editing bits.
I'm working on it. I'm getting a little bit better every time, but I just, there's got to be ways to do things like copy paste.
There is. We need to talk. Using Premiere or Final Cut?
Premiere.
Okay. After the podcast, we'll talk. All right. I'll help you out. Don't worry. And also, I have a question. I have something about your YouTube page too. I'll help you out. Yeah, there's one thing there. This podcast that we're on is about entertainment and things we're into. I'm in a million things, but you're the guest. So what's one thing you're digging on right now that you're just... I'm going to guess it's a game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of something that's somewhat new rather than like... I've been playing a lot of Splatoon 2 lately, but that's kind of old news.
Oh, well, not really.
Well, it's...
Well, what year? I mean, it's not ancient news.
No.
Splatoon.
I mean... Yeah, it's for the Switch, so it can't be that old.
Yeah.
But more recently, I was playing the Octopath Traveler demo. Did you play that?
No, I want to hear about this.
Okay.
I know the concept. I've seen the imagery, and I'm so enamored with it.
Yeah, so everyone is excited about it. I think it has a lot to do with both the art style, which is kind of this mix of, the sort of 16-bit Super Nintendo era type imagery and graphics, set on like a 3D plane with some more, modern lighting and that sort of thing applied to it. So it's an interesting look. It's definitely not something I've ever seen done in a game before. I'm not quite as enamored by the style as a lot of people are.
Oh.
To me, it's like, okay, yeah, that's kind of interesting. But some people are like, oh my God, it's amazing.
Well, some people say that it's like if the 16-bit era just kept going,
right,
and we never got like polygons and stuff, it was like, it would just be better lighting and graphics, like in fog effects. So does that sound right?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Actually, if you've ever played like the PSP version of Final Fantasy IV, where they just sort of like added effects.
Oh yeah.
Like when you cast fire spells and
They're
stuff,
like,
it's like real looking fire, but
yeah.
everything else remains 16-bit. So
yeah. I remember me and my brother when we were growing up, because again, I'm old. In the 1800s, we were playing Mario Brothers, Super Mario Bros. 1, and we were like, man, wouldn't this be amazing if it was just like, and we were saying this back then, just like amazing graphics, like arcade graphics, we would say, because that's all we had to compare it to. But like we were just thinking about this like, photorealistic Mario, but still 2D. So we didn't want like Mario 64. We weren't thinking that way. We were like, how could this be better and more realistic looking, but like the same game?
Well, Super Mario World is pretty much what you're describing then, I guess, right?
But it's also 3D. But yeah, I mean, it's like
Super Mario World?
Super
That's
Mario
2D.
World is 3D. Yeah, it's 2D. You're right.
Yeah.
I was thinking Super Mario.
3D World?
No, no, the new one. Oh my goodness,
Odyssey?
Odyssey. I was thinking Odyssey for some reason. Odyssey is an incredible game.
Odyssey's really good.
Yeah. And did you beat it? I
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, although there's a bunch of like secret ending stuff
Oh.
that you can do if you get all of
All
the
those different
moons.
things, yeah.
Actually, I don't think you need all of them. You just need a lot of them. And then there's this crazy difficult level with no checkpoints that's extremely long, and that's like sort of the true ending, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing changes. It's just like, do you want to unlock this crazy hard bonus level?
That Bowser was already hard. I remember being like real mad at that. I had to
Yeah.
do it like a bunch of times. Anyways, back to Octopath Traveler.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
So, yeah, the game comes out in like, I think 5 days, 4 or 5 days.
soon.
So it's really soon. But I played the demo, and it's cool because it just says, all right, you've got 3 hours. Start the game, you got 3 hours. And it's otherwise like the entire thing.
That's sweet.
Yeah, so you can just start from wherever you want.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah. So I started with, there's 8 people, obviously. That's why it's called
Octo.
Octopath, right? And you just kind of start their story. They've got their own motivations for leaving town and, going off on an adventure or whatever. And then you see on the map where the other people are, and you can be like, well, I don't really know where I'm going yet. Maybe I'll try this village that's, relatively close to me, or I can meet this other guy. And then it'll prompt you to play through the beginning of their motivations and story, as soon as you meet them. And then once you've done that, you guys are kind of like a
You're
party.
buddies.
And you can go and you can do what the first person wanted to do, what they're setting off to do, or what the second person set off to do, or just go to another random town and recruit a third person.
And what's the total, do you know, of the party it's going to be? There's 8 people, but is it going to be your party's going to be 8 people, or do you think it's just going to be...
It's probably 3 or 4, but I don't know.
8 would be unruly.
No, I know it's not 8 because
Yeah.
there's like a grayed out menu that's like change party
Oh, okay.
in like the taverns. So there is definitely not going to be 8 people fighting at once, but I don't exactly know.
I like that concept, though, of just going and meeting people and then they're in your town and you're in your gang or whatever.
So I really like that idea, but I was disappointed. And again, I mean, this is a demo, so I mean, it probably gets better than this. I was disappointed that although the writing for the game, so far, all their motivations seem really sound. All of the writing is really good. But then you meet this person, and rather than coming to, understand the other person's motivation and being like, yeah, okay, I'll tag along. They're just like, all right. Like, you meet them, and you're like, you want to join my party? And they're like, cool.
All right, I guess.
Completely. So what made it so weird for me is I started with this huntress lady, and she's very, like, she's kind of like hippie. She's, very much about the trees and the forest and the life, and, circle of life and all of that stuff.
Okay.
And, seems like a very... I would say good person, noble person. And the first person I met up with is a thief.
Oh, nice.
And, like...
She didn't care.
The thief is like, well, I'm just trying to steal this treasure from this mansion. And you just are like, yeah, cool, I'll join you.
All
Like,
right.
But she wouldn't do that. Why?
Yeah.
What's her motivation for joining a thief?
Yeah.
All this writing leading up to this.
They didn't build in the backstory of how each one would interact with each other.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe it gets better, especially once you start having, like, party interactions and
Maybe she just
stuff.
got to see him steal something and be like, okay, wait, listen. I was on board in the beginning because she seemed like a nice guy, but now I'm not.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see if that improves. The battle system is really good, though, and I like pretty much everything else about it. That just sort of threw me off. I'm like, well, that's not.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem right.
Sometimes you can't get everything. You know what I mean? Like they focus on a bunch of stuff, and as you know, with game development, like maybe that's just like it was an afterthought or something. They're like, I guess we just gonna say that they're together.
Yeah,
they're gonna go on this.
I can't come up with a way that these guys would want to be together, but they
Right.
kind of have to be. So
It reminds me a little bit of was it Star Ocean 1 where they all had the 4 different stories or 5 different stories? One was a robot. One was.
I haven't played that one. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. It was the first Star Ocean, and I believe it's PlayStation. And that was the one where you could start from any story. And one was like a robot. They were all just different types of people. And then you did also, I think, meet up with the other people. So there's some similarity there.
Yeah.
But that one actually, I think, was really focused about how they interacted with each other. Because they were really building, I think they only built like 4 or 5 stories.
Right.
Maybe it's when you get to 8.
Yeah.
It's
just
too
goes
much.
out the window. Or, I mean, maybe they just had similar enough motivations in Star Ocean that it made sense and you never questioned it, right?
Yeah.
I think maybe I just took a path that seemed really,
right. Totally different.
This hippie girl and a thief were probably not the two they like necessarily wanted you to pair up right away.
All the QA tests, none of them did that. They're like, wait, what if they picked the hippie lady and the thief?
Yeah.
No one will do that.
Why would you do that? Why would you go to a thief first? That doesn't make any sense.
The player's wrong.
Yeah.
In that setting, the player's wrong. By the way, in Star Ocean 1, I am still mad at that game because literally I got stuck and I was like 40, 50 hours into that game.
Oh.
And it was I don't know if that even happens anymore, but like a bug where I was stuck. Like you could not.
There's nothing. Yeah. That's why even
like the boss was gone.
Day,
It was supposed to be there. It wasn't there. That's it.
Yeah. To this day, I still make multiple save files when I can. Just
I feel
for
like
that
I did.
reason.
Maybe there was only one in the olden days. We only had one save. Actually, that's true. I don't know why I didn't make another save. Maybe I did. No, I think it was like broken enough to like I saved it before that moment, but then I went to the place and the guy was still not there. It didn't matter. Yeah, that's what it was.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I hate that. And that's, people hate patches. People hate that patches are necessary, but that's a way that
full circle. If Drake can do it, it makes sense for video games. I'm also playing Pokemon Quest. Are you trying that yet?
Yeah, I played that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's an okay time waster.
Yeah, it's not a Pokemon game.
No, it's pretty much just, there's not really gameplay. Like, it sort of auto does everything for you, which is
a weird kind of game.
Yeah.
You're literally just picking attacks here and there.
Yeah.
It feels like an MMO or something.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and then you're just doing these specials, special moves. And, the fact that they move on their own bothers me because the strategy.
I know, I want to be able to, dodge.
Yeah. And I feel like I could do nothing besides, just hit my special and that's it.
Yeah, there's a button you can press that tells your party to scatter, and that's sort of the dodge button technically.
Get out of there.
But it really doesn't work because they just will scatter in a random direction. So oftentimes they'll just scatter into the attack. It doesn't really
nice.
Doesn't really work that
Don't
well.
go the way of the monsters. Oh, there they go.
Yeah.
I agree. It's just a time waster. It's a fun time waster, and they definitely do this thing where you do cooking and you make recipes, and that makes new Pokemon show up. And I got a Vulpix right away, and I was really excited about that.
Do you have a shiny yet?
No, I just played it for a couple hours.
Because they're somewhat common in there. I have a couple shinies, and in the normal Pokemon games, in the the Game Boy and the DS and all of the main series Pokemon games, right? Your chances of getting a shiny, I forget what it is exactly, but it's 1 out of thousands. So you may go your entire life without seeing a shiny. They are that rare.
Wow.
It's an enormous deal if you find one. And they've added ways in the newer games to cut that number down. If you're a shiny hunter, you can breed in specific ways. You can fight Pokemon in specific ways. It's called chaining, which I don't even know if is a thing anymore in the newer games. But there were ways to cut down that percentage. But still, the best you could do was a 1 in, 200 chance or something that. So you still, even if you're trying super hard, it's RNG, right? You may or may not ever see one.
And this one you get them
This
often.
one, I feel like it's a 1 in 1 in 30, 1 in 40 chance in Pokemon Quest. I've seen quite a few. I think I have 3 or 4.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, that's another reason why it's not a Pokemon game.
Right.
It's not doing it doesn't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
This is definitely, it feels like I don't say paint by numbers, but it's, this could be another game with a different license.
Oh, totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This could be like Joe's Adventure Quest. And, you hit buttons for specials here and there, and that's it. But that being said, people who not necessarily are into Pokemon could play it because they're like, okay, I guess these guys are little creatures or something. And they just like the loop of it. It's very mobile.
Yeah. And you'll get to a point. So I actually played it quite a bit. And then I got to a point where, like, it puts up a really high wall. So right now you're probably
just
pretty
enjoying
much,
the loop because they're feeding it to me.
yeah,
to
and
get me
you're pretty much getting through every level. Maybe you got to stop and grind once or twice, but
I just beat
general,
the first boss. That's all.
okay.
I did.
Yeah, in general, for the first, I don't know, 5 entire stops, like, you know, there's like 5 levels per little area. You'll just kind of fly through them. But then it gets to a point where, I mean, I was grinding for multiple days. I mean, you know, it stops you with that battery recharge thing.
Yep.
But I was grinding for multiple days and, like, maybe being able to get 1 level closer. And so I kind of stopped playing once they threw that wall up super hard.
Yeah, that sucks. And especially because they get you in the beginning. They're like, you know, look at it, it's easy.
Oh, yeah.
It's fine.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's fine. I spent a few hours, maybe 10 hours total playing that game, and I don't regret the 10 hours I played total.
And you're done. That's it.
Yeah. I've done it, and it's done. You aren't still playing Pokemon Go, are you?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So
I stopped that too.
I'm still into
You're
Pokemon
still
Go.
going.
I am.
You're going.
I am Pokemon going. Yeah.
Wait, is that a thing? Pokemon going? That sounds like a thing. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it definitely was one of those things where it was a moment, and I'm so, like, similarly, in a way, I'm glad it happened. A lot of mobile experiences are like that for me. Like, I have this great game or great ARG moment or something with the phone, and I go, wow, that was really cool. And then now I'm never going to look at it again, you know? But you're still going.
I am. They've added a lot of stuff in the last few months that have gotten a lot of people kind of back into it. I never stopped playing. I was very lightly playing for a while, but I never uninstalled it or anything. I've still been keeping up with it, but so they've added a bunch of shiny Pokemon, which is always a big motivation for people. Yeah. They do these community days now once a month that are designed to just get everyone playing. So for 3 hours a day, 3 hours a day on this one day, there will be just an enormous amount of spawns of whatever Pokemon they've decided the community day is, with a much higher chance to get a shiny version of it. So
cool.
Yesterday was Squirtle Day.
Oh, I like Squirtle.
Yeah, and so they had shiny Squirtles, and then not only that, but there was a way to get Squirtle wearing sunglasses.
Oh, that's pretty dope.
Yeah. So, but it's cool because those are the days you'll actually see a bunch of people outside walking around again, just like when the game first came out. And it's basically only on those once a month community days that I see that now, but it's kind of cool because you're like, oh yeah, this happened when everyone was playing. And
yeah, people
you look
are
around and
running into the beach and stuff. Like, let's all go down there. There's something. I tell you what, though, this country specifically really needs that. The whole community aspect, like, it's just the divisiveness that I talk about in this podcast a lot, but it's just so frustrating. And so, yeah, video games, music, entertainment brings us together.
Yeah.
And what better way, or what simpler way, is to, like, hey, everybody, just bring your phone over here and let's all get in on something together.
The first, 2 weeks of Pokemon Go are the closest I've ever seen to world peace, and I think the closest we will ever see in our lifetime.
Oh,
everyone was just so happy.
I know.
I don't even mean that in, a horrifically negative way. I just mean that was, literally everyone was just happy and helping each other, and I'd never seen anything like that. I mean, you'd walk outside and people were just tapping you on the shoulder and being like, hey, there's a Growlithe over there, just so you know.
I don't know who you are, and you're a stranger to me, but we're going to talk.
But I just want to, give you a hint and help you out for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And, they just people just kind of yell out if they saw something or did something that could be helpful.
Yeah.
It was
that was cool. It happened at our work, too. I remember we were at work, and it was just, we'd see people would just come in and be like, did you know that, it's right over there, Or, we got to go, everybody has to go downstairs. Right now. I know we're working, but we have to do it. Yeah, I love that. Okay, well, Pokemon Go, you're still playing. I'm not going to go back to it, but I appreciate those community days. That seems really cool. I'm playing a lot of, it's so weird. It's such an old game, but Red Faction remastered, the Gorilla one. It's Red Faction was, I think it started as a first-person game. And then at some point, they released this one called Gorilla. Let me make sure that's right. And it had destructible environments. So it was that third-person action-adventure game that has, Gorilla, that has destructible environments. And I mean, everything can be destroyed.
I love that.
I love that. And it happens very few times. This is one of the first ones that kind of did it amazing, and probably still to this day the best. 2009 it came out, and Volition was the developer. And yeah, they you have a pickaxe and you're like mining on Mars. So like that's your motivation. You're a miner. But of course there's a bad faction called the EDF, and they're terrible, and they're like the government, but really mean government, and they want to take over, and you're part of like, the liberation of something of Mars. So that's a set. It's not really much. It's like take over bases, take over this area, get your resistance meter up, and so the people will start fighting with you, which is actually really cool. So you'll get more ammo, or you'll get more literally people running like with you to a firefight. So you're like going there like, a bunch of people have joined you. They're all going to help you right now. And I'm like, sweet. But the reason I'm playing is because that destructibility, and because the promise of what Crackdown 3 was, and still is, and they were going to use this destructibility with cloud computing.
Right.
And maybe that's why I'm guessing that it's taken so long to come out, because that's a harder thing to do.
I think even when they announced that, everyone was like, you don't have to do that.
You don't.
We want the game.
Red Faction Guerrilla shows you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But I think here's the key, and this is why I bring it up. I'm playing the crap out of it. I love it. And I had never beaten it, so I'm going to go back and beat it. But what they did is they just allowed the bugginess to exist. Like a Skyrim or like a Bethesda game or something like that, when you break down a building, sometimes like random pieces of metal are just like flying around and like in the ground, and then they pop back out. I have a ton of GIFs of this. And they just were like, yeah, okay, we'll leave that. That's the game. Because if you don't, then you perfect it too much. And I feel like you wait for it to all like fall perfectly. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but maybe that's what's holding up the Crackdown stuff, is like maybe they really want it to be, perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, people are hard on mistakes like that when they don't really affect gameplay that much. And I'm not saying that's a good or bad opinion to have. I totally understand wanting your games to feel finished and like they don't have bugs in them.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm kind of with you, where I just don't really mind bugs that don't get in the way of anything.
Right. It's
like
not like
something clipping through a wall. As long as everything else is still normal and playable, I can ignore it. It's fine.
Yeah. If it's like Star Ocean and it stops me playing, then yeah, it's terrible.
Right.
But
yeah, the occasional wall clipping and that sort of thing, I mean, I'll get over that. If it's going to take you an extra 8 months to get your game out, just to get rid of wall clipping, I'd rather just have the game.
Yeah, I'll just have the game, please.
But I mean, that really depends on the severity of the glitch, obviously.
Right.
I mean, game-breaking ones, of course, you can't release, but there's some physics ones that would definitely bother me, but for the most part, if it's just like a cosmetic, type thing like that, I'd be like, eh.
It's fun, I tell you what.
It's silly, but...
Yeah. Well, it's almost like fun with it, you know what I mean? Like, again, people who like Bethesda games, like, embrace the craziness that comes with it.
Which Skate is it that's got the crazy... Is it Skate 3 that's got
Skate
the crazy
3, I think,
physics and stuff? And people love that game.
I love that game. Oh, that's why I thought it was E3. They were going to announce a new Skate, and they didn't.
Yeah. Everyone thought that.
I know. Or a Tony Hawk, because they fucked up the last one, and...
No more Tony Hawk, please.
Oh, really?
Robomoto's killed, like...
Yeah, I know they destroyed
until
it.
Until they get rid of Robomoto, I mean, I don't know.
Well, here's the thing, is I grew up with, what was the first game? Slacker? No, Skater? Fuck, what is it? Thrasher. Thrasher was the first PlayStation 1 skateboarding game, and I played it, and it had physics that were like... When you fell down, it looked like you broke all your bones. Like it looked real bad. By the way, people listening, go to the internet, type in Thrasher. It had a really good soundtrack. And it was the beginning, because it was a disc, it was the beginning of like, oh, you can hear some really great music on video games. And Tony Hawk was right after that. And it had better physics, but it was still this kind of moment, just like we said in there's a moment with mobile games or something, you always remember that. There's a huge moment with like the first time I played skateboarding games on my home console. Because before that, I'd played in the arcade. Was it 720? Skate or Die.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, the point I bring that up is that I miss skateboarding games. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, well, there's that new one that they're working on, and I am blanking on the name.
Oh, you're right. They did not announce that at E3.
Yeah, I cannot.
And we were like, it's not Skate, shut up. But, okay, what is it?
I cannot remember.
I'll
I'm
find it.
completely blanking on the name right now. But yeah, they did announce another skateboarding game. They only showed like cinematics, and I have not been curious enough, I guess, to actually look up if there's any gameplay.
Session.
Session.
Don't
that's
like
right.
the name. Not a fan of that name.
Yeah,
Yeah, we couldn't remember it.
that's true.
You know, we remember Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
Well, that's his name.
That is a guy's name.
It is a guy's name. And I remember Thrasher from a long time ago. So Session, get on it. Also, Thrasher was a skate magazine, I think. Anyways, I'll check it out because I need a skateboarding game in my life. I really do.
Yeah, I think most people
Session.
just end up going back to the old Tony Hawk ones and just...
They're still good.
Yeah.
They really are. 3. I think 3 is my favorite. Oh, it's really good. Okay, well, that's that. Other shit that I'm into. Wow, I hadn't sweared all podcast, and then I swore just twice. But it's okay. You can if you want. Do you? You don't swear on podcasts.
No, I do. I don't.
Do you?
I don't really think about it either way. So
Right.
if I feel like I need to, I do. But
Right. That's how it should be.
I honestly don't even notice when I do. We tried to do a podcast once where we tried to make it like kid friendly, and we couldn't do it. And not because we are constantly swearing, just like when we feel like a swear is appropriate, it's
It
hard
has
to
to come
turn
out.
that off.
Yeah.
I'm just not very good at censoring myself like that, unless I'm like physically standing in front of a small child.
Right.
In which
And
case,
then you
my
swear
brain.
all the time. You just constantly
then,
swear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I want to be a terrible influence. I feel like when you actually see someone in front of you who shouldn't be hearing swear
Right,
words, your
right.
brain is better equipped to like turn it off. But I don't know. When
Yeah.
I'm just talking to someone, I'm always, I don't have any filter with Cody, my podcast partner, basically at all.
Yeah.
So it's hard to turn on a filter with someone I'm not used to having to do that with. I don't know.
And it's good you don't. I mean, it's just I don't remember hearing you swear much in that. But
I mean, I'm not like a total potty mouth. I'm just...
potty mouth.
Yeah.
By you saying potty mouth, I know that you don't swear much. Because you just called it potty mouth. I'm watching a million things, but one of the things is Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee came back.
Oh, yeah?
Netflix. Have you ever seen that? With
Yeah,
Seinfeld?
I've seen it. I don't really watch any TV, though.
I know you don't
I do
watch
like
any-
Seinfeld, though, so...
Yeah. I totally understand that everything I say now that has to do with viewing things, you're going to be like, I have not seen it.
Yeah.
But I bring this up because I wanted to talk about this on the podcast. I like Jerry Seinfeld a lot, and I like that show, and I love, as I do a podcast right now, talking to people and listening to their stories, especially comedians, and I do stand up here and there. The problem is that I just feel like it's finally getting to me on how kind of condescending he is. Like it's like something I can deal with for a while, but now there's like I don't know, the 4th or 5th in quotes season of this show, and I definitely like a lot of the people he had on, like John Mulaney's on it and Kate McKinnon, which I love, and sometimes those people get through his like, well, this is really what's going on. That's how he does it, Here's life. Let me explain it to you.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm a grown person, and I have my own thoughts, So a couple of people will get through that crap. Like Kate did a really good job of it, but it just bothers me.
I feel like that's a complaint I hear a lot.
Really?
And that's probably the reason, just to bring Cody, my podcast partner, up again. He doesn't like Seinfeld, and I think that's the reason he doesn't like him. He just feels like it's kind of talking down to you.
Yeah.
Humor for the most part, which I can't really refute that. I mean, that is kind of his personality. So I don't know. I feel like I maybe wouldn't like him that much in real life, but I can deal with it just as listening to a comedian.
Yeah.
But
Would you like his act?
if that, in general,
Yeah.
I think so. Have I watched everything and recall everything? I know everyone makes fun of some of his older lines. What's the deal with airline food and all of that, but.
Yeah. Well, that was just more like it's that kind of you look at the world and make jokes about it. and stuff like that.
So sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certainly not the world's biggest fan or anything, but
Did you watch the show, the TV show?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why I asked that. Like it was like everybody.
My
in the world
dad's
hasn't seen it.
Jewish, so
forget about it.
Yeah, I basically lived on Seinfeld growing up.
Oh,
You
interesting.
had to watch it.
Yeah,
It's a requirement.
Listen, you go to
Temple.
and then you go watch your Seinfeld. That's your thing. And
No, we were not good Jewish people. Like
you just watch the Seinfeld part.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, like I never had a bat mitzvah.
What?
I didn't do any of that. So I'm just because Judaism is kind of one of those things where like you can be culturally Jewish, but not religiously Jewish. And like that's sort of where I'm at. Although even that, I don't even celebrate all the holidays. I just celebrate like the big ones. So, yeah, you know.
Hey, you know. It's okay. I think that's a lot of people. I mean,
it probably is. And my dad grew up in upstate New York for the first part of his life.
Have we talked about this? That's where I'm from.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's from oh my gosh, where is he from? Well, my grandma lived in Rochester, but I think he's from Buffalo.
Okay, I'm from Syracuse.
Okay.
Originally, yeah, I grew up in Syracuse. Huh, okay. So
Yeah.
he dealt with all the snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So had I grown up there, I think I would probably be a little bit more Jewish.
You would be more Jewy.
But
yeah.
but I didn't grow up. I mean, I basically never lived on the East Coast. I did, but when I was very, very little. Like I lived in Baltimore when I was really young, but ever since then I've been either Midwest or South or total West Coast.
Yeah.
So
Seattle.
yeah.
That's interesting. you missed your Jewy part.
I guess so.
Yeah, it's like back there still. We should go back and do like a whole tour. We'll get you a bagel. I'll show you the place. Yeah, I'm not Jewish, but I grew up in New York, so I'm like an honorary Jew.
Yeah, you're like, I mean, you got part of it.
Yeah.
That's that cultural thing.
It's the cultural thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't grow up around, I mean, I really just didn't grow up around other Jews at all. So that's why it's sort of like this weird spot in my identity that I feel like could be there, but isn't really because I just didn't have much exposure to it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not particularly like sad or happy about it either way. It just kind of never happened, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you were adopted, it's sort of like if you were adopted, right? Like if you were adopted out of another country and brought here, it's like, well, I know technically I'm from this other country, but
all right, but I do what Jane and Bob say to do.
Right.
We go have a Christmas tree and
yeah. And maybe they like are nice about it and celebrate this holiday from my home country with me, but
right.
And that's sort of where I'm at. And I, you know.
Do you think do you have any beliefs or ideas on like does the Jewish faith at all come into play with like after you die and thoughts like that? Or do you like is any of that influence any of that stuff? Or?
Not really. I mean, I just didn't grow up like my dad's not a religious person really, or at least he's never been outwardly religious, so I just didn't really have any of that knowledge growing up, any of that attachment to that part of the religion.
I think that it's interesting because a lot of the religion part is the part that can be kind of annoying and, again, man-made. But spirituality, which is like now almost a new buzzword, like people who like, oh, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. I think that's important, though, right? And spirituality can be a lot of things to a lot of people. It doesn't necessarily have to be attached to like this old school religion, right?
Yeah.
So would you say you have any spirituality? By me setting it up that way?
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it too much, to be honest. I mean, my mom, was Christian, so I guess I grew up in a more Christian of a household because, we celebrate Easter and Christmas and all of that stuff as well.
Did you know it was about the resurrection and all that stuff, or was it just like, it's just a bunny?
No, I knew.
Okay.
I mean, she had us go to church and everything. I don't know. Even from a young age, I was just kind of like, this isn't for me.
Video games, huh?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
And I'm, not in like an angry, screw these people kind of way. Just, this isn't my area.
Yeah, it didn't resonate with you. Yeah. Video games did, and I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
Because we have.
I guess that makes me shallow, but.
You're like, let me think about that for a minute. No, I think, not to go too off on a tangent, but I study quantum physics, and I love quantum physics, and it really does talk about the nature of reality. Whenever you get to that level, right now we're talking about quantum computers and the idea that we could create, AI and sophisticated robots. All this stuff kind of pushes you to think about what it means to be conscious, what it means to be, do we have a soul, right? Like this book I'm reading that I mentioned on the last episode is called The Fourth Age, and they talk about, if we build AI that's really sophisticated, will it have a soul? Wait, do we have a soul? Like, do animals have souls and all that kind of stuff? So that thought I consider like spirituality. And I think lots of times it comes from just studying science or studying the world around you, right? Like when you start studying reality, it becomes like magic.
Yeah, really. I mean, honestly, it sort of makes, this is going to sound dumb, but like it makes my brain hurt to think about. And when you think about, there have been people saying like, okay, well, we're at the point where we may be able to start saving people's brains
Right.
and like kind of uploading their brains,
Ray
right?
Kurzweil, Singularity. Yep.
But what is, there's no way that if you turned on that copy of my brain that I would then feel like two separate people, right? Like that would be a different...
Would you be over there?
If there was a consciousness, right?
Yeah.
In a fake brain, it wouldn't also be mine.
Right, but you would be gone at that point, right? Or would you be around?
Well, I mean, they probably wouldn't do it until I was gone, right? But,
Yeah.
Assuming that they turn on this fake brain while the person is still alive, like, they're not going to be controlling both at the same time.
No, yeah.
So that's where it kind of weirds me out. 'Cause, like, you're not going to live on necessarily just an exact copy of you.
Right, a clone
if they can do all of that.
Yeah, we actually just had the discussion about a teleporter. So if you step on a teleporter, is that you anymore? Because they take all the particles out and then put them back together. And if so, does your soul go with it if you had one, right? Is it just a clone? So what I said last night over drinks is I said, when you step on a teleporter, you kill yourself. Because
that's
then
what it would seem
you're
like.
no longer the person anymore. And like what you just said, like the clone part really takes over, or like the next thing.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go in a teleporter anymore.
Me neither.
All right. Kelsey and
These are
Carlos.
true first world problems.
Yes,
Right here, not wanting
well-
to go in teleporters.
Listen, I don't like walking, but I also am not going to kill myself in a teleporter. Thoughts on Intellivision? Let's hit that real quick because we got about
Sure.
15 minutes left. I had heard you talk about it on the last episode of the podcast of Game Blitz, which you can go listen to. It's up right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about Intellivision and the Atari VCS. I just want to talk about the Intellivision. We can both agree, I think, that the Atari is kind of silly.
Yeah, I think most people are just kind of hand-waving it for good reason.
In general, I just don't think they have a good enough plan.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, they have... The difference between the VCS and the Intellivision is at least the Intellivision, regardless of how you feel about it, they have a legitimate business plan that has been thought out with market research and an actual action plan. I mean,
Yep.
it's a full, I went to business school, that at least they have done all of the legwork.
Yep.
You can disagree with what results the results that they expect to get versus the results you expect them to get, which I do. I do disagree with what they think is going to happen, but I can't say that they didn't do the legwork on it.
Yeah, let's talk about what they plan to do. So the guy, the CEO, is Tommy Tallarico, which some of you might remember. Him and Victor did Electric Playground together back in the day, which now Victor still does Electric Playground. You should go watch it. It's on YouTube. On gaming.youtube, he does a live show. I think every day. Is he crazy? I think he might do it every day.
That's so crazy.
That is crazy. I used to do this podcast every day for a while, and then I was like, what am I doing? No, thanks.
I don't think, you'd have to just spend the rest of your free time finding more media to keep talking about it,
Well,
right?
that's actually easy for me.
Oh,
That's why I
okay.
was able to do it, yeah. Because, as soon as we're done here, I'll, experience 4 new things because I have problems. And I don't sleep. But anyways, Tommy Tallarico, he was known for also doing concerts and music, so video game music, and also being, the funny guy cohort Victor on his Electric Playground show. So I know him from that, and then all of a sudden I hear this press release or something comes out, and he's it was actually on Victor's show going I want to bring back the Intellivision. But we're going to do it in this very interesting way where it's going to be a family-friendly device, that it's going to be, really simple games. And I heard that they're bringing back the wheel, which the controller had, the original controller on television had this wheel, which was supposed to be the simplest, directional pad. But I never liked it when I was a kid.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting that they were bringing that back. And then he also said, we did market research. We tested this with a bunch of people who are not gamers, and they found it easier, more intuitive than a D-pad or a joystick. And I
don't believe that.
I know. I'm like, well, I can't argue if you say you did the research and those were the results you got. That just sounds so...
We
that
can
doesn't
argue.
sound right.
No, it doesn't. I think the market research... Well, here's the thing. When you do market research, it's still those specific people. Maybe those people were just wrong. Or
Yeah, I guess I don't know the sample size.
Right.
I mean, if it was only 10 people and he just got 10 weird ones.
10 weird ones. He was like, let's find the weird pile of people. Because we did market research at Big Fish when I was there. I remember seeing it and watching that stuff. And I was like, it just depends on who comes in that day.
Yeah.
Are you going to really base a whole thing on and it worked lots of times, but other times. Yeah, so I don't know about that wheel, but I do like the concept of it's a system that it just goes back to basics. It's like, okay, video games are crazy. I just do this voice all the time. And they're very complicated for the person who doesn't normally play video games. Well, let's make it simple, like a mobile game, like you had talked about on the show, and make a console out of that, and hook it up to your TV, and anybody can play it, like the Wii, etc. But I think you brought this up as well. Does anybody want that right now?
Yeah. And his counter to that was, well, you see how well the Wii sold among moms and grandmas and people who normally don't game. But to me, the Wii sold to those people because it advertised itself as a way to, like, get your body moving.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't so much that they wanted to play games. It was that they wanted to, I did a whole video on the Exertainment bike for the Super Nintendo,
Oh, I saw
right?
that, yeah.
It's the same, it's Exertainment. They don't want to be bored. They don't want to go to the gym. But everyone wants to be in shape and slim and stuff. And they're like, well, if I can pretend bowl and pretend play tennis rather than going to the gym, yeah, that's way better.
That bowling didn't work because you were drinking beer usually while playing Wii Bowling. So I think you were gaining weight with playing that one. But yeah. No, yeah, totally. It was more the kind of like, this is a bunch of things in one. Yeah. Not just like video games.
Yeah. And I'm sure plenty of them did play, there was Bejeweled on the Wii. There was all kinds of, very normal, casual games like that as well that weren't meant to exercise or anything. But I just don't think anyone bought the system for things like that. I don't think they bought it for playing Bejeweled and playing this sort of easy, simple mobile games. I think they bought it because they saw it on, Good Morning America or whatever, where people were exercising with it, and they were like, "Oh, that looks fun, and it's exercise."
Yeah,
I can jump. I can do $200 or whatever to get exercise.
The Wii board, the Wii Fitness board, and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's part of it, but I also think that it was a moment in time, right? So, like, one of my favorite bands in the world is Nirvana, and they happened because it was just the right time. Like, they were an incredible, weird punk rock, weird band, but they happened at this apex of like where pop music was shit. CNC Music Factory was out. I mean, that's all I gotta say. And it was just a weird time, and I feel like the whole country and the world needed some sort of like really great rock band, and they came out and they just, never mind, boom. So I feel like the Wii kind of had some of that going on with it too. Like it was just this time where, what was the system before that? GameCube, right? That kind of fizzled in a way. Like I love my GameCube.
That was one of Nintendo's worst selling consoles, which is weird given the amount of nostalgia people have for it. But I mean, look at the numbers. It is one of their worst performing consoles. Right.
So after that, like after almost a loss, comes a big victory.
Yeah.
So not just for Nintendo, but for just in general, like the marketplace. It was like hungry for something that was different and new. And I would say that's part of it.
And we're thinking like, I mean, this is like 2005, 2006. I mean, this was not when you had a bunch of games on a smartphone in your pocket yet.
Right.
I mean, I think smartphones were like around, but they definitely weren't in everyone's hands. And there weren't, tons of free games on the app stores and stuff. So, I mean, if people were looking for something casual, this was probably, a pretty decent way to do it because not everyone had a smartphone yet. But, we're 12 years removed from that now, and everyone does have a smartphone. So, it's just, I don't think that people necessarily are interested in the distinction between playing it on their phone and then playing it in front of their TV.
You mean, like they would rather just play it on their phone?
Well, I just don't think they care either way. And they're not going to spend $150 or whatever. I can't remember how much the system's going to cost, but they're not going to spend that amount of money just so that they can play it on their TV.
For fun, how much was the Wii when it came out? I feel like it was cheap.
Gosh, was it $200 or $300?
I feel like it was at least $200 definitely, but I feel like it was cheap. I feel like it was $200. I could use the internet.
Okay. I thought it was more than $200, but I could be wrong. I just know that it sold out instantly. I mean, there were
that's why I was wondering.
Fights and
$250.
$250. Okay.
I think is what it says here.
Yeah,
so the Wii costs $250, includes one game. Oh wait, that's just talking about now, isn't it?
No.
They're like $20 at the pawn store. Oh wait, you should never go to pawn stores. You should only go to Pink Gorilla if you want video games. Anyways, I just remember it being cheaper. Yeah, I think it was $249. And it's so funny how just $50 makes a difference. You're like,
Oh, it
okay,
totally does.
okay.
$250 versus $300 sounds like a big difference.
$300 is $1,000.
Yeah, $300 is so much money.
Yeah.
I really got to think about that. $250 is like, that's a lot, but I can do it.
I can do it.
Yeah.
What's funny is that, and I don't know if you've ever talked about this much in your shows, but with you taking in account for inflation and stuff, the prices are the same. Like I feel like because when I grew up, I would start looking at all my old notes and pictures and stuff because I even did stuff back then with VCRs and VHS tapes and stuff. When I look at a lot of stuff, I look at my Turbo games and all that stuff. Turbo graphics game, $60. Which brand
was
new.
Actually like $90 adjusted for inflation.
Right.
So
that's like really expensive.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean, if you're talking about like Super Nintendo RPGs, Saturn RPGs, those oftentimes were $80 or $90.
That's right. I remember they were $80,
and that's well over $100 adjusted for inflation. So games have gotten cheaper.
Yeah, and $80, by the way, when you're like a young kid, and I was like a janitor at this school to make extra money, which is hilarious to see a little kid scraping gum off tables, and sad. It was a lot of saving. And $100, that's a whole system.
Minimum wage back then was like $4 or $5.
It was.
I mean,
yeah. I got paid $4.50 at Taco Bell, and I closed, which I wasn't supposed to close. I was 14, and you're not supposed to close.
Wait, you could work when you were 14?
Yeah.
Oh.
This is the olden days. In the 1800s, they didn't care.
In the 1800s, I thought the
or was I 16?
I thought the 16 minimum has been around for a while.
Even since the 80s?
I thought so, but maybe
I feel like
wrong.
I was 14.
Well, but you know what? Maybe it was just a lot more like, no one's gonna check.
Fine. He's
fine.
His name's Carlos. He's working at Taco Bell.
I mean,
Who cares?
there wasn't like a computer they were entering this information into.
Yeah, no,
so they
that's
were just
right.
like,
there was no computer.
They were like, "How old are you?" And you're like, 16, and just wrote 16 down and.
Although I can't lie, so that I wouldn't have done that. But I would have just said 14. They're probably like, get in the back.
Yeah. I mean, I had a job when I was 15, but it was like there's ways you can do it, but you can't work like very often, and it's under certain conditions and stuff. Like you can be like a camp counselor at 15. That sort of thing.
Well, who's gonna believe a camp counselor who's 15? That's what I want to know.
Like 5-year-olds.
Oh, okay, for young kids.
Or just like if you're like a camp counselor at like a day camp, like arts and crafts or something.
Oh, right.
Just you don't have to be taking a bunch of 11-year-olds on a sleepaway.
Yeah, that's
camp.
what I see. I'm like, all right, kids, follow me. I'm the 15-year-old and I know what to do. My first job I think was a farm. And I think I was 11 or 12. And again, you're like so young, you're not supposed to be working, but they skirt that. They're like, he's on the farm, he's just doing a couple things.
I have this is the most Texan thing I can say about myself.
And we will get back to Intellivision for the listeners at some point.
The most Texas thing I can say about myself, because I lived there for 11 years. I worked on a farm, sort of. It was like a horseback riding place, but they also had chickens and, ducks and that sort of thing. And you can't work when you're like 12, but I would work in exchange for being allowed to ride the horses, basically.
Oh, that's adorable.
Horseback riding lessons cost money.
Yeah.
Having a horse costs a lot of money. I obviously was not going to get an entire horse myself. So, yeah, I worked in order to ride horses. That was not like a long period in my life, but it's weird to think about because I'm just so far removed from that now.
Yeah. But can you ride a horse
Texan.
good?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You got the lessons?
I'm sure I can. Yeah.
I haven't for a while.
It's been a while, but I've gone to like Colorado and gone horseback riding in the last like 5 years probably. It doesn't really. It's like riding a bike. Like you at least mostly remember
muscle memory.
Like I couldn't tell you. I used to be able to tell you all of the parts of the horse and everything,
which
and
sounds
like
gross,
anatomy
but okay.
and everything.
Yeah.
But
this is the leg part and the ass part. That's not what they're called.
It's not what they're called, but
Anyways,
is funny. I'm sorry.
No. I like that. I like that story, and I like the idea that you know how to ride a horse because guess what? If this apocalypse happens at some point, you're going to be better off than I am.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, if you see a wild horse, you'd be like, let's go.
I don't know if I could tame a wild horse.
Oh, that's true.
That might be difficult.
Okay.
But I could steal someone else's horse,
That's
probably.
what I was going to say. Like, he's already in a stable, he's chilling, and you're like, okay, I know how to ride a horse, let's get out of here.
I could do that.
Okay.
I think I could still probably set up a saddle and everything.
Can two people ride a horse at the same time?
Some horses are set up for it. It's just not like, you don't
I don't
really
think I've
want
seen
to.
it. You don't want
like
to
it's bad for
it's not
the
like
horse.
A bike. Yeah, okay, yeah. It would hurt him.
There's not really like saddles built for two people, so you could do it like bareback, but
I just saw that in my head and I never seen two people on a horse.
Yeah, some people will do it like, romantic horse rides on the beach together or something, but
only on like covers of books.
Yeah. But usually that's without a saddle, which you really shouldn't do unless you're experienced. I don't know where this conversation is
I don't know either,
going.
but I know that I did ride a horse once because I shot a like a instructional video for a horse company or something where they
a horse
taught
company.
You know the horse companies. They got all the horse parts.
It's run by horses.
And they tell you all the horse parts. But I did it for this woman, and we shot this really cool video about how to ride a horse and how to get on it quickly and bareback and all that stuff. And I definitely got on it myself without a saddle just to, try the whole thing. It hurt.
Yeah, you don't want to ride. There's a reason they do saddles.
Especially with the guy
parts.
It's
painful.
The guy parts hurt. All right, Intellivision, real quick. Going from horse and guy parts to Intellivision. Got like 5 or 10 minutes. I am going to say my review is that I want it to succeed because I like Tommy, and I do like the concept. I like you said, suspicious if it will work because it isn't like the Wii where there was a moment in time and a fitness angle. So it doesn't have those things going for it. The only thing I'll say pro that it does have going for it, maybe, that I heard him talk about with Victor, is that he's really going towards the indie devs and trying to get a lot of dev support. Now, I know that he wants to do exclusive games, etc. But if you get a ton of indie devs, then you can have a lot of great stuff, like the stuff that's on itch.io right now, which if you don't know about itch.io, go to itch.io. It's great indie games, and a lot of them are free. And some of the stuff on Steam that doesn't get any love because you can't find anything on Steam because there's so much stuff. That stuff, if that kind of, the games like that can go over there, like The Promise of Ouya, then you got something because you have a little bit of a platform that goes to your television to play Steam games, right? Like so right now, the Steam Link.
Well, but he said
good.
Everything's going to be an exclusive.
Right. I guess asterisk the Steam part of it. I just mean like the indie devs that would normally make those games.
Yeah.
Could make them for that.
But that's not even what he wants. He just wants like only simple games. So there's a bunch of amazing, deep, gorgeous indie games that he would not put on his platform.
But there are a ton of simple indie games that are really great too.
Yeah.
I mean, was that Killer Queen game? So fun.
I still haven't played that.
Oh, in the arcade? And
I've seen it in the arcade multiple times, but like it just looks very involved and like I need someone like instructing me.
Oh, Portland Expo. I'm going to finally go this year. It's October, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we'll play down there at Ground Control. They have it there.
Oh, God, you don't want to go to Ground Control during PRG.
Oh, that's right. We have to go down like a couple days before.
Yeah.
But they actually, I don't know if you've seen this. This is another aside, but they redoing it. Ground Control. Like
I went actually. So half of it is open again.
Oh, cool.
And I went in, and it's very different.
They had the red boxes and stuff. Did you see that?
Yeah. I like it, but I also miss what it used to be. Like right now, there's no upper floor open. It's just the new bar looks really cool.
Yep.
But they don't have that many machines open right now.
Yeah,
and there's no upstairs, so like none of the pinball stuff really. Well, there's a little bit of pinball.
It feels
stuff,
smaller right now.
It's a lot smaller right now. So.
I do remember that original being like, I go upstairs, get a beer, go upstairs and play pinball for a while, and that was cool. Back to indie games and Killer Queen. Yes, that's how we got there. I just think that if they do that, I think there's a possibility there, but it really comes down to like what games he/the company wants to put on there.
I think the best thing they have going for them right now, to me, and this is one that I don't know if other people agree with this, but I think the best thing he has going for it right now is that he wants every single game on it to be rated E. And that's his promise, is that every game on there is going to be rated E. So that's actually a great angle at selling to parents, because for an uninformed parent who's not willing to do the research, and I'm not even blaming them. Like, if you have no interest in video games and you just want your small child to shut up, like it sucks to have to learn and do research about this entire thing. I get it. Obviously you should, but also I get not wanting to. So if you see this console that's only safe games, there's no microtransactions, there's basically no way your little kids can mess it up, right? Like, there's no way that they can accidentally stumble upon something awful. They can't use your credit card. It's completely safe console. So I totally get that angle. That's a great way to market it and be like, hey, does the Xbox scare you? What is a Fortnite, Like,
what is a Fortnite?
Then
totally.
get this instead. And, like,
Yeah.
the kids will not be happy with it unless they're very young, to be honest. I mean, they probably already have formed opinions from talking to their friends at school about Fortnite on their PlayStation or their Xbox or whatever. But if you just want to get them a game console, especially for younger children, 4 or 5 years old, they're definitely not old enough to be navigating an Xbox necessarily.
Well,
then this is actually like a pretty good option for that.
Yeah, the young people probably already have Fortnite on their phone too. Because
That's true.
It's mobile now.
That's true.
So
I keep forgetting that.
Yeah, they can probably just play that, and then maybe they will just be like, okay, well, this is a thing Mom bought, and I guess I'll just play this for these other things.
Yeah, and they may, I mean, honestly, especially for younger children, I think they legitimately will like that, because you don't, I was playing Pokemon when I was like 5 when it came out. I'm very young. But
oh boy, I'm very old.
But even that, I mean, I was a quick learner growing up, so I was reading when I was like 2.5. So I was able. I know. Yeah, I'm not still that smart, but I was when I was young.
You started off early. Smart.
Yeah. I just got like
just
this flying head start, and then just totally lost steam. So, I was able to get through that game, but that was a tough game for. There's a lot of text in there. There's a lot of words that maybe a young person hasn't heard. I'm not necessarily thinking that a young person's going to play an RPG necessarily, but there's definitely something to be said about, a 4 or 5-year-old just playing simple, rated E games.
Totally,
right?
And that's how I started. I mean, I started with Atari.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's probably seeing in his head. So Atari was, I mentioned this recently somewhere, but the first game, Combat, or Tank, or whatever it was called, I think it was Combat. Where you shoot each other with tanks, and there's this one level where you can shoot the bullets off the sides of the walls and hit each other like from in the butt. Like, you're like, where'd that bullet even come from? And you spin around. You don't need to know nothing about no games. You just got the terrible Atari 2600 controller. Even back then, we all knew it was terrible.
It's awful.
But you're moving that control and you're hitting the one button, and that's all you needed to do. And yes, Mom and Dad could play it. Anybody could play it.
Yeah.
So that concept was how I started playing video games, and the only reason I did. And we all started before that with Pong, which anybody could play. You'd watch biker dudes in bars play Pong because they were just like, hey, Jimmy, get over here. I don't know. This is thing. You move this thing around. All right. And then, I beat you.
Yeah.
It was so easy.
Well, it's, Pong is the same as table tennis, right?
Right.
Everyone knows the rules to table tennis. And so, you got a pool table over here, and then you got Pong. It's like they're just both two things to do while you're chatting and drinking a beer.
Right. So I think that, I don't know. I think there might be a potential of, it's all got to be a perfect storm because the devs have to be there. You got to have those games that are fun. You got to have that Killer Queen kind of game that comes out for it that's exclusive. And people are like, this is a great segue. I actually want to, for the 2 minutes or 5 minutes we have left, I want to defend Ouya because I always get so much shit on every podcast. And the Ouya was a great fucking system. Everyone needs to chill the fuck out. Huh. It was, I had it and had new friends who made games for it and stuff. Towerfall came out on it first. Okay? Everybody needs to calm the fuck down. Towerfall.
I think most people's frustration with it is that it just wasn't, especially the store part was just not moderated or, curated whatsoever.
But they were trying. My point is, I actually talked to those developers. It's an analogous for, it's a metaphor for, I just want to promote people who are trying stuff. And because I try stuff and you try stuff and people who create things, it's a fucking hard thing to do. And you're lucky if anything ever takes off. And so I met those developers early on and I liked their little system and they tried really hard and they probably didn't have the best person doing the marketplace, but it was like a person or 3, And they did get like Towerfall and some other really incredible exclusives before any other platform. They just didn't have enough games. So, and then it had this amazing ability to just hack it like a whatever, make the emulators and play your old games you want on that too. So for me, it was a great little system. I hooked up to my HDTV and played a ton of new indie games as well as all these old emulator stuff, which, you know, I know is whatever to a retro fan. Is
yeah.
But at the same time, I just love that little box. And I just get tired of people like bad mouthing it because I feel like they were trying really hard. And I will never like diss someone for trying.
Well,
Does that make sense?
I sympathize with this because once the internet sort of decides that something is bad, it sort of just becomes a dog pile and like the facts of it don't really matter so much anymore.
And we're in that dangerous territory with like new stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know?
And this includes, I mean, this goes all the way back to people's misunderstanding of like the game crash in 1983. Like people have just heard enough. They just keep hearing the word ET and game crash, and they just keep hearing these things swirling around on the internet. And so they've just, that's just what keeps getting repeated when, you know, it's a lot more complex and obviously did not come down to one game. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How could it? So, you know, I sympathize with that because I definitely think the Ouya hate is, while it was a failure, like it was justified being a failure. Like there's a reason, I think there were legitimate reasons that people were disappointed with it, of course. But I think when most people are talking about it, they're not really even talking from any like sort of experience they
100%,
had. They're just
100%.
sort of talking about what they've heard other people's experiences are and what other, you know, what's been said on the internet.
That's all I'm saying. If you owned one and were like, man, I was disappointed, you know, or you backed it and stuff
and
like
that was Cody. Cody paid
Yeah.
one of the higher tiers to get a limited edition color,
Yep.
and then was just really disappointed
Yeah.
with it. So I get that. I think there's completely legitimate reasons to be disappointed with the product that you bought.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just the idea. I hear so many people just be like, "Oh yeah, that Ouya thing," and they didn't experience it.
They've never held one.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I get it.
Oh, here's another good memory, and it does come down to memories you have with things, right? So that system, I don't know if you were there. I think it was before I met you, but I did these live podcasts for Video Game Break, my old podcast, and we did one at Ray Gun Lounge here in Seattle, and we had a contest. It was a balloon party tournament, and we did it on the Ouya because we were just able to. You know, of course, we could have. I think we actually had systems there as well. We had Nintendos and things like that, but we had a couple other games, and especially indie ones. There was one called Bomb something. It was like Bomberman, and we put them all together. And the Ouya was like the winner of the night because it was like this cool thing where you could hook up your phones as well as for controllers. And everything was wireless, and it just worked seamlessly. Like it was just this great little box, and it was teeny. And it was easy for me to, you know, travel with it. So I don't know. I've had great memories with it. Kind of like I have had great memories with TurboGrafx, which you could talk about in a whole podcast. And people do a lot of that same thing where they're like, "Oh yeah, that system that failed. All right, well, calm the fuck down." You know, I mean, there's a lot
of circumstances for failure that don't have to do with it being bad. Like poor marketing can tank pretty much anything, right? I'm not saying that's the case with anything we're talking about.
It was partially the case with TurboGrafx,
but just in general, I mean, something doesn't have to. When something fails, it doesn't necessarily mean it was because it was bad or crappy. I mean, they obviously had some part of it that was bad to warrant it failing, or at least subpar, you know, inferior to the other offerings out there. But yeah, that certainly doesn't make it bad.
I would love to have you back for a TurboGrafx Sega Genesis conversation because I have been waiting to do that podcast for a while.
I can't believe you haven't done one.
I know, because I do talk about it a lot. Anyways, lastly, I'll say Intellivision, I hope you do well, and we'll see.
I hope so too. I mean, it's a neat idea, and it's a big risk that they're not putting to crowdfunding, which is a big deal.
They're paying for it.
Yeah, so I mean, to put up all that money for a big risk like this to try to, you know, kind of put this subcategory console market, you know, it's interesting.
It's a question mark, and we'll find out soon. And you can find that on the internet. Just type Intellivision.
Yeah.
Intellivision, tell me, tell Rico. And we don't know the name of it yet. I'm thinking it's going to be called the Intellivision 2000.
Why 2000?
Because it just sounds cool.
I don't know. Okay.
By the way, last video game thing before we go, Nippon Marathon. Are you playing that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, my goodness.
What is that?
It's this weird, like, running racing game what do you call it when they're just people and they're running and they're racing?
Like Endless Runner type thing? Or
No,
no?
like remember what was it called? Wild Runner. There was one game on the PlayStation 1 that was racing and you're people and you're just running.
Oh yeah. There's a couple of those actually. Well,
Okay.
there's 2 in Japan, and then
The one that we got one,
yeah.
and I played that one. It's like that and physics. So you can run and jump and fall all over the place, and like little dogs come out and butt at your legs, and it's just crazy Japan running through a course, and it's amazing. And the gifts I've made from it are like my favorite thing in the world. Nippon Marathon. It's on Steam.
Okay.
You need to go check it out, and so do the listeners. All right, as we go, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Kelsey Lewin. You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/Kelsey Lewin.
You do those videos, but they'll take a while because you really do it right.
They take a while, but there should be one out very soon. So.
Oh yeah, the sewing machine one.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
it's I did a lot of editing yesterday, and I'm getting pretty close. So
we'll talk about some of the editing stuff. Thanks for being here, and thank you for listening, everybody at home. And this is the new discussion version of the show. We'll be doing a solo one where I talk by myself in my room, probably with the mixer, and then we'll do these, and we're doing them every week. So I've booked these out for 2 months almost now.
Sweet.
So we're getting
it's a cool studio.
Back. Yeah, I love it. Cloud Studios, by the way. Love them. And check out cloudstudios.com. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's on the internet. All right. Thanks, Kelsey. We'll see you later.
See ya.
I don't have an ending. We're doing it.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.